It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah. D-U-E-U.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and today we're going to preview the Seattle Seahawks. And before we get started, let's take a look at some of the top storylines heading into the Seahawks season as we go into our 4-minute offense. In a surprising move late in the offseason, the Seattle Seahawks were able to broker a trade with the New York Jets for safety Jamal Adams. The two-time Pro Bowler wanted out of New York and made that publicly known. Now, Seattle saw an opportunity to upgrade the position with a player who, quite honestly, is tailor-made for their defense and one who could help start a new version of the Legion of Boom. With that being said, the price for Adams was costly, multiple first-round picks and former starter Bradley McDougald, but the Seahawks hope that the reward is far greater than what it took to get him. He definitely gives them a much-needed boost on the back end. The Seahawks were also able to talk former Carolina Panther tight end Greg Olsen out of what looked to be the broadcast booth to come and give it a go for this upcoming season. Olsen was still a productive player for the Panthers last year, hauling in 52 passes for nearly 600 yards, and Seattle hopes that he will bring that stability to a position that has been fairly unstable for some time now. Having a guy that can help take care of the middle of the field will open up the rest of the passing game, hopefully having the offense be much better on third downs as well. This was an underrated addition to the team, in my opinion. In the first round of the 2020 NFL Draft, the Seahawks took one of my favorite defensive prospects in the class in Texas Tech linebacker Jordan Brooks. What makes him such an impressive player is that he can essentially play all three backer spots and play them quite well. Seattle is expecting the type of impact from him this season. Currently, when you look at their roster, they have Bobby Wagner, they have KJ Wright as the starters, and Brooks figures to be a starter on either the strong side or on the weak side. It also figures to be the heir apparent if they decide to move on from KJ Wright after the season. He didn't have a lot of buzz leading up to the draft because of an injury that caused him to bow out of the Senior Bowl, but when you popped on the Texas Tech tape, you saw the makings of a Seahawks or Baltimore Raven type linebacker, and Seattle got themselves a good one in Brooks. Seattle lost 4 starting offensive linemen in the offseason in center Justin Britt, guard DJ Fluker, and tackles Jermaine Ifedi and George Fenton. You can also add free agent signee Chance Warmack to that list as well, as he opted out because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, those moves led to some reshuffling on the roster up front, and we know how much offensive line plays about continuity. Now, that reshuffling comes in the form of center BJ Finney, tackles Cedric Ogbuehi, as well as Brandon Shell. Also, rookie Damon Lewis to center or guard out of LSU. And because of the pandemic, teams lost valuable time like minicamps and OTAs, which are usually critical to team building, and will now rely on a unique training camp this year to get that job done. So if there are any questions about the Seahawks entering 2020, the offensive line will be atop that list in my opinion. Future Hall of Fame quarterback Russell Wilson has been everything you could ask for in a franchise QB. He's always amongst the top in passing efficiency. He always has a flair for the dramatic where his team is never out of a game, and he does a great job of minimizing mistakes and maximizing opportunities. It's a big reason why the Seahawks have enjoyed 8 straight winning seasons, 7 playoff appearances, and a Super Bowl title under his leadership. Seattle has also only had 1 season under double-digit wins. Wilson's career has been remarkable, and one could argue that he played MVP-type ball last season, throwing 31 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions, while also contributing another 342 yards on the ground and 3 scores. He doesn't show any signs of decline and barely, if any, legitimate weaknesses, and Wilson has proved to be very durable as a player. We could see another 8 years of excellence coming from number 3. And meanwhile, the Seahawks have a strong QB2 in Geno Smith, who proved to be capable when called upon, giving them peace of mind at the position. Last year, the Seahawks were 4th in the league in rushing, with Chris Carson leading the team with just over 1,200 yards in that category. He's been the most consistent out of the bevy of backs we've seen post Marshawn Lynch. As long as he can stay healthy and protect the football, he'll be the lead guy right out of the gate. The team thought that guy was going to be Rashad Penny, who has the breakaway speed that you want at the position, but with a combination of injuries and fumbles, Penny can't be counted on at the moment, which is why they went out and signed Carlos Hyde, who quietly ran for 1,000 yards last season with the Texans and gives them some assurance and insurance in the backfield. I do like draft pick DJ Dallas out of Miami, who has above average receiving skills and plays a lot like Carlos Hyde, to be honest. It'll be interesting to see how he'll work himself into the mix, as well as special teams ace Travis Homer, who gives him additional burst at the position. We saw a couple of breakouts at receiver last season for Seattle. Stepping into a primary role, Tyler Lockett cracked the 1,000-yard barrier last year and had enough highlight plays to fill up a hard drive. We also saw the rookie DK Metcalf get better each and every week, helping balance out the passing game. He nearly hit 1,000 yards himself, finishing with an even 900 yards on the season, but he did score 7 times, which was great. One would expect both guys to hit 1,000 yards this season. Where things will get interesting is outside of both Lockett and Metcalf. Free agent signee Philip Dorsett arrives from the New England Patriots, giving Seattle another speedster that can get deep. He figures to be their third option. A real battle to watch will be between David Moore, who seems to find a way to hang around and contribute, and second-year player John Ursura out of Hawaii, who played 3 games last year and will be looking to increase his role this upcoming season. He's got skills that are similar to former Seahawk Doug Baldwin. The tight end position got a significant boost this offseason with the addition of Greg Olsen. He gives them a stretch Y, who is also a solid blocker in the run game. He's going to be the option who is able to work the underneath and intermediate areas of the field. And if we're being honest, the rest of the position, if healthy, looks promising. Getting back Will Dissly will definitely give them a solid 1-2 punch. And I like what they've added in the draft with Stephen Sullivan out of LSU and Kobe Parkinson out of Stanford. Sullivan was a former wide receiver turned tight end and is coming off of a strong showing at the Senior Bowl, while Parkinson is a matchup problem because of his height at 6'7" and has some versatility within his game, having played across the gambit at Stanford. He's also a former basketball player, as if we haven't seen that play out before. They also have Jacob Hollister, who played well for them when the injuries hit, as well as former Seahawk and fan favorite Luke Wilson. So this position to me finally looks to be a strength. When you look at the offensive line, Dwayne Brown is the only non-question up front in my opinion. He battled nagging injuries last season, but still found a way to start a dozen games and played well. Center BJ Finney, who was sought after as a free agent, will hold down that pivot spot. He was another underrated signing by Seattle. I really like his game, and after those two, it gets very competitive. Ethan Posich out of LSU is a versatile enough player to play multiple spots up front and figures to be in the mix at one of those guard spots. He'll battle it out with second-year player Phil Haynes out of Wake Forest and Mike Iupati, who started games for Seattle last year. Haynes has the upside and looks to be a lock to start on the right side because of his ability in the run game, which leaves Posick and Iupati duking it out for the left guard spot. Although Haynes' spot isn't a given, as he'll have to hold off rookie Damian Lewis out of LSU, who the team selected in the 3rd round of the draft, and Lewis is one of the strongest linemen in the draft and is powerful in the run game. Haynes has a bit more athleticism, but Lewis figures to see time in rotation. The other battleground position figures to be at right tackle, where free agent signees Cedric Ogbuehi and Brandon Shell will compete for the starting job. Ogbuehi has the 1st-round pedigree, while Shell is coming off of a season where he started last year with the Jets, and whoever doesn't start will provide solid depth along with Jamarco Jones. Along the defensive line is where Seattle will expect to see a significant jump in production this year. This was a group that finished tied for 29th in sacks, with Rasheem Green leading that group with 4. Now, Green did step up last season and enters his 3rd year as one of the leaders up front at defensive end. The hope is that second-year player LJ Collier can make that same jump that Green did last year. He was taken in the 1st round of the 2020 NFL Draft, expected to be the type of pass rusher off the corner that causes consistent problems, but that wasn't the case as a rookie. That's why Seattle went ahead and signed former Seahawk Bruce Irvin to be just that, just in case Collier can't turn it around. Now, they also invested in the end position in the draft with 2 impressive prospects in Alton Robinson out of Syracuse and Darrell Taylor out of Tennessee. Now, Robinson was one of the top pass rushers in college football, showing an ability to bend the corner and flatten to the quarterback, while Taylor has good functional core strength, is a solid run defender, and is more of a power rusher who can also kick down inside if need be in passing situations. And depending on how quickly those rookies get up to speed will ultimately determine how quickly they play. If not, the Seahawks do have good veteran backups in Benson Mayowa and Brendan Jackson. On the interior, it's a bit more cut and dry with Poona Ford, who has blossomed into a bona fide player for this defense, and former 2nd-round pick Jerron Reed, who flashes brilliance as we've seen him have double-digit sack seasons before. Hopefully that version of Reed is able to return in 2020. Now the depth is thin here with DeMarcus Christmas, who is returning from an injury that zapped his entire rookie season, and Brian Monet, who gives them a gritty, girthy run stuffer inside. Where the Seahawks are the strongest defensively, in my opinion, is at linebacker. Bobby Wagner is one of the best defensive players in football and is most definitely on the Hall of Fame track. The 6-time Pro Bowler and 5-time All-Pro, led the league in tackles last year with 159. He's one of the most instinctful and impactful backers in football. KJ Wright finished second on the team in tackles with 132 and broke up 11 passes in coverage. He's been one of the more underappreciated backers in the NFL, steadily displaying the consistency at the position for his entire 10-year career out there in Seattle. Now, I spoke earlier about Jordan Brooks and the potential impact he'll have on his defense. He shares that same mindset and ability as Bobby Wagner, and I wouldn't expect any less than what I saw from him at Texas Tech out there this year for Seattle. The Seahawks also have solid depth with Cody Barton, who started a couple games last year, including the playoff game versus Philly, and Shaquem Griffin and Ben Burr-Kirven are speedy run and chase backers who also contribute on special teams. The secondary will be an area to focus on for sure this upcoming season. Things have looked promising so far, as they got great news recently that the pending charges against Quentin Dunbar, who they acquired in a trade this offseason, will be dropped. Now, Dunbar is a solid corner who is expected to start opposite of Shaquille Griffin, and with that news, it helps strengthens them on the perimeter. It also gives them the luxury of going with either Dunbar or Trey Flowers, who was a bit inconsistent last season, but is still a very good player overall. Inside, we'll see Hugo Amadi probably get more and more opportunities to be their starting nickel. He played well last season when given the opportunity, and Nico Thorpe gives him a veteran presence as a reserve and a key special teamer. Quandre Diggs was fun to watch last season. He is their chess piece type defender on the back end, able to play in the slot or as a traditional safety. He's also a terrific blitzer and has strong football instincts. And we spoke about the boost that they'll get at safety with Jamal Adams, who figures to play in a role that we saw Cam Chancellor thrive in throughout his career. Adams led the Jets in sacks last season with 6.5. Hell, that would have led the Seahawks in that category as well. He's an active football player that wants to be great, and that's going to be welcomed here in Seattle. The other safety spot will more than likely go to second-year player Marquise Blair out of Utah, who started 2 games last year and had his ups and downs, but you figure a second season in the scheme would give him a better understanding and a higher comfort level, which will allow him to go out and execute better. Keep an eye out for undrafted rookie free agent Chris Miller out of Baylor. He's got excellent range and is a heat-seeking missile when attacking downhill. He graded out pretty high for us coming out of Baylor, and I would also expect he and Delano Hill to provide strong depth back deep. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website ninethandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Financial Coaching LLC, investment, retirement, security. Stewardship Credit, financial growth is in your hands. Stewardshipcredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. BJ Finn is a player that may not be a household name or one that many who cover the game are familiar with, but look for that to change this training camp as he's going to prove why the Seahawks made it a point to go out and sign him. And Chris Miller fits the MO of a Seattle defender, instinctive, active, aggressive, so look for him to stand out this summer. Damian Lewis should find his way into the rotation up front this year for Seattle, helping this offense be much better in the run game and even better in pass pro for that matter. And Jordan Brooks will make many all-rookie teams this year, so if you're a betting person, put some money on that. I think Greg Olsen will be the biggest X factor on offense for Seattle. The tight end position hasn't been a threat for a minute, and they get someone with the pedigree of Olsen, and that should work wonders for this football team. Defensively, it'll be LJ Collier. He really has to stand out in his second season as a pass rusher. If he's able to do that, this defensive line could get back to what it was a few seasons ago. This is going to be a big year for him. Look for Phil Haynes to have a breakout season at guard. I liked him coming out of Wake Forest, and I believe he will take ownership of that position and ball out. So will Ugo Amadi at slot corner. Pete Carroll spoke about wishing he played him a lot more last season, and he'll get his wish this year as Amadi looks to be ready to break out in his sophomore season. A major reason for optimism is the fact that they still have Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. That's the Bill Belichick-Tom Brady matchup that you want to see from a coach and QB. And as long as they're there, Seattle has a chance to be great. And their offense can create big plays. We saw this last year with amazing plays made in the passing game. We know about their fourth-rated rush offense. So this offense will give you a lot of optimism. And also on defense, Bobby Wagner, as long as he's out there, he's the Russell Wilson of that defense. He's a tremendous leader, a future Hall of Famer in my opinion. So you have to have a lot of optimism about Seattle going into the season. A cause for concern will be if their pass rush doesn't improve. Like I said earlier in a joking manner that Jamal Adams would have led this team in sacks last year with 6.5. They have to find someone along that defensive line to give them double-digit sacks. If not, this defense could struggle as a whole. The road to the Super Bowl for the Seahawks goes as follows. If that defense gets defensive, this was a football team that finished 26th in total defense last year. That's unheard of for Seattle. They have to get back into that top 10 area if they want to have a shot to get far this upcoming season. And the passing game continues to open up. We nearly saw two 1,000-yard receivers. You add Greg Olsen there, you add the second year with DK Metcalf, and you expect that passing game to really flourish. And finally, when you look at the third reason for them to go to the Super Bowl, that new offensive line has to gel and strengthen. I talked about the lost time with COVID-19. You lose the mini camps, the OTAs, all of that gelling time that you need for an offensive line to be successful. They've added some good pieces, and if they are able to come together, then Seattle has more than enough talent on both sides of the ball to head down to Tampa for the Super Bowl. I have the Seahawks finishing second in the NFC West. This is a very good football team. I love the additions they've made up front along the offensive line despite the losses. On defense, I do think their defensive line will play much better than we saw last year. I like what they've done in the secondary with Jamal Adams and also what they've added with Quentin Dunbar. So I see a solid football team once again finding themselves in the postseason. So that's it for this edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. That's where you can find our NFL All 32 podcast. And keep it locked here on the Football Game Plan YouTube channel for many more videos that are pertaining to the Seattle Seahawks and the upcoming season.
It's D-U-E, you tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.